Hello! In today's video we will create a code that shows the location of some elements of our map whenever we click the buttons on the navigation bar, just like we're seeing now on the screen. The first step is to create the circles in HTML. To do this, after the closing tag of our main SVG, we will create the circle tag. Each one of these elements will have a class name, in this case will be highlight. Then I will give a cx of 0, cy of 0 and the r equals 0 as well. The size of each circle will later be calculated automatically in JavaScript based on the size of the object that we want to highlight. One of the elements we want to highlight is the toilets, and if you remember well, you know that we have 5 toilets distributed throughout the zoo. This means we need 5 predefined circles to be used later. To do this, copy the code 5 times in HTML and only change the ID name by adding, for example, a different number after the word circle. Now that we have our 5 circles in HTML, let's go to JavaScript, and I will place here a code that waits for the page to load and then collects 5 circles from our HTML using their unique IDs and stores them in a list called circles in this case. Next, I will identify 2 specific polygons from the HTML using their ID attribute and assign them to variables. I will use document.getElementById to find 2 polygons named other house and other house 2. These polygons will be then stored in variables info_polygon1 and info_polygon2, so we can easily work with them later in the script. For the next step, we need to create a code to find the smallest rectangle that can fit around one or more shapes in an SVG, like drawing a box around objects on a map. The first function, Getboundingbox, is simple. It takes one shape, a polygon, and figures out the invisible rectangle around it. For example, if we have a house shape on our map, this will give you the rectangle that covers it. The function getCombinedBoundingBox works with multiple shapes. It starts by getting the rectangle for the first shape and then goes through the rest of the shapes and adjusts the rectangle to make sure it includes all of them. For instance, if you want to highlight 2 houses, like in this case, this function will calculate a single rectangle that fits tightly around both. In the end, this code is helpful for things like zooming into a group of objects or, like in this case, drawing a highlight box around several items to show that they are related. The next function finds the center of a rectangle and the size of a circle that can cover it. First, it calculates the middle point of the rectangle, the cx and cy, by taking its position and size. For example, if you have a rectangle around an element on a map, this gives you the exact middle of the element. Then it calculates the radius of a circle that would fully cover the rectangle. Then we need a function to update the circle. This function updates the position and size of a circle in an SVG based on the new center information. It takes a circle and the center object as inputs. Using the setAttribute method, it updates the circle cx and cy attributes to move it to the specific center point, and then the r attribute to adjust its size. The next function is designed to briefly show circles around a specific element on a map. First, it calculates how many circles needs to be displayed, ensuring it doesn't exceed the number of available elements or circles. Then, for each element, it finds its bounding box, calculates the center and size for the circle, and updates the circle to match. The show class is added to make the circles visible, and after 2 seconds it hides all the circles by removing the class show. Next, I created a function called handleLinkClick. This handles what happens when a user clicks a link or a button, focusing on highlighting elements on a map. First, it begins by stopping the default behavior of the event. If two specific polygons, info polygon 1 and info polygon 2, are selected, it calculates a combined bounding box around them, determines the center and radius for a circle that covers both, and updates a single circle to highlight the area. These circles appear briefly for 2 seconds before disappearing. If more than one element is selected, but it's not a specific polygons, the show circles function highlights all the elements. If there's only one element or it doesn't match any specific case, the show circles function still highlights it. The next line of code that I create sets up an event listener for a link or a button with the ID info link. So when the user clicks on it, the handle link click function is triggered. The function is called with specific arguments, the event object E, two polygons, info polygon 1 and info polygon 2, and then adds a scale factor of 1.4. This means clicking the link will highlight these two polygons on the map, scaling the circle size by 1.4 to make it slightly larger for emphasis. Next, in CSS, I created a dynamic highlight effect for the element circle. By default, the highlight class makes the circle invisible with no fill, and a black dash stroke that is offset by 1000, hiding it from the view. When the show class is added, the stroke dash offset animates to 0 over 1 second, making the dash line appear as if it's being drawn around the element. Then, when the show class is removed, the stroke dash offset returns to 1000, hiding the dash line again. The code is finished, but has some errors that need to be fixed. Like we see here, I clicked on informations, but the code is not working. The first part it needs to be fixed is these const circles. The word highlight is wrong. It was a typo error. I found another error on line 107. It needs to be circle0.classList.head. I forgot to place a dot. Next, I will also move the circles tag inside the main SVG. So I will cut here and paste right before the closing SVG tag. After a long time searching for a new error, I found it here on line 54. It needs to be let combine b box and remove the equal sign. Another one in line 62, combine b box needs to be with the lowercase c, and line 65 as well, a lowercase c. Finally, the last error was found in CSS, a typo error on the word highlight right here. Now if we go back to the map and click informations, the code is now working. Next, we need to create a similar code to the other elements that we want to highlight. For the gift shop, picnic area, playground, toilets, coffee shop, and the parking. Going back to VS Code, I added 4 more const variables for the gift shop, for the picnic area, for the playground, and finally for the parking. Next, as we did previously, this code adds a click event to the gift shop link, triggering the handle link click function to highlight the gift shop polygon on the map with a scaling factor of 1.4. If we go to the browser, we see that there's an error happening here. Every time I click on the gift shop, the circle appears around the element, but keeps getting bigger with each click, eventually going off the screen. To solve this problem, we need to go back to VS Code, and here on line 91, I will just change this circles dot for each to elements dot for each. Let's check the browser. And yes, the problem is now solved. Now we need to do the same thing for this new variable, for the picnic area. And let's check if the code is working. Yes, it's working right over there. We then do the same thing for the playground and as well for the parking. Let's now do the same thing for the coffee shops. So I will create a new variable called const coffee shop polygons, and inside of this I will create an array of 3 elements. Right here I found a typo errors. As you can see, I'm looking for the word coffee, but it only appears here on line 30, and I need to solve this. If I go back to the browser, for example, and inspect the element, let me try to find the coffee shop elements, and as you can see, the word is spelled coffee with 2 e's, but I only write 1 e, so I need to solve this in my HTML. So I just need to search for my element, and here on data name I just need to place another e so the word can be spelled right. I will replace the incorrect word in all the places where it appears wrong, and as well in line 54 of my JavaScript, because I misspelled the word right there as well. After this, I will copy this code snippet here and just add the number of each coffee shop before the word shop in this array. Finally, we just need to create the variable for the toilets. I will call it toilets polygon, and this will be also an array with 5 elements in this case. And let me search for the names that need to be called. WC2, copy this part 5 times and just change the name accordingly. Going to the bottom of our JavaScript page, copy this code again, change the ID of parking link to toilets link, and replace the handle click event. Let me just correct this part here. Let me check if it's working. Finally, we just need to do one more thing, that is do the same process but now for the coffee shops. Again, copy the code, change the ID in this line, and as well right here for the name accordingly. Let's replace 2 coffee shop polygons, and let's see if it's working. It's not working. Let's try to solve this error as well. Let's go to the top of the code to see if something is misspelled. Right here is coffee shop polygons. It's correct. Maybe here on coffee shop dash link, let me try to see coffee shop. And I think the problem is solved. Yes. Now these highlights are fully working. That's all for today's video. In the next one we will add shaking effects to the trees as well as a sound to make it seem like they are swaying.